Hello friends, my name is Panda1 and we are going to go through the Beastmaster leveling guide from Maxroll.gg. This one comes by popular request and it's actually a build that I basically have used before because I leveled a Beastmaster and I think that this might be somewhat of an obvious path. Although there is a very important part here that I did not use because I wasn't looking at the skills. When I played Beastmaster, it was the second character I ever did, or maybe third, something very early. And the important thing that I didn't know was that swipe, a skill that I was avoiding intentionally because it seemed so basic, had the ability Wild Calling, which gives us a chance to summon spirit wolves, which increases our abilities even further. And more little instances of damage that are gonna down our foes with the quickness, I hope. I was using the exact loadout other than that, though. Other than the skill swipe, I was using basically exactly what's here. So I have a feeling that it's gonna be easy and fun and that I will have experienced it before. Because of that, and since I did my last video solo self-found, I am going to give myself a luxury this time, and maybe people will complain and maybe they won't care. I don't know. But they say that they want us to use a Rune of Ascendance and keep a lookout for the Claw, which is a level 4 unique, which lets us summon our wolves up to our maximum number of companions. That's only a minor increase for us, to be fair. When we look at our Summon Wolves tree, they're going over here to get that ability anyway. And it's the first 6 points that they're putting in. And in fact, it's so important that they have you respec when you unlock that ability naturally. The thing is, this is going to be a benefit for a very small amount of time, to be honest, because we're going to unlock this super fast anyway, and they want us to get all of the points, and I would recommend getting all of the points required before that. So it's not like we're saving anything except for a couple levels of being a little faster. It is possible that I could respec this entire side of the skill tree, but I don't really think that's better. I think getting the attack speed is great, and I think the multiplicative modifier for damage is also great. Not to mention that this bonus is tripled if we have howled recently, and we're going to be doing that as much as we possibly can. So, we're actually going to have a super simple melee build here. If you ignore the fact that we have pets at all, we have 3 buttons that are buffs. One of those happens to be our pets, which is the wolves. One of them is Warcry, and one of them is our Frenzy Totem. Now, technically in this build, Fury Leap is also a buff. I don't know if I'll use it like that or not. Usually I keep those for defensive purposes when I gotta get out. We'll see how it goes. I'll try just being totally aggro, and we'll see how it goes. But basically, we're just popping all of our buffs and then doing swipe. So I know that that sounds like it could be boring, but I think this one will actually be fun, despite the fact that it's very simple. So already we're to the point, I'm level 8 right now, where I can pretty much just chuck a couple of Thorn Totems and run. Now, I do have 2 wolves right now because of that amulet. Normally I would only have 1, so I'm a little stronger in that situation. But we're also, I don't know, I think at level 20, or maybe 21, we would get to have that anyway, so I don't think it's too big of a problem. We're almost at that point. But even though those guys have a lot of health as I walk by, they stop having health after I walk by because my pets are doing so much damage. And again, you don't have to kill everything that exists in the map. So I think we're headed off to a good start, and it's only uphill from here. We are using swipe here for our primary single target damage, which is giving us some bleed chance. Unfortunately, we don't have as many points in that right now as we would prefer, but you can tell the single target damage leaves a little bit to be desired. But it is what it is. I think that it's overall going to be a really fast playthrough, and I'm excited for that. Very soon after, and just one weapon different, and we're doing considerably more damage already, and it's only going to go up from here, so like I said before, I knew this was going to be a good one, and it is, especially since we're going into crit eventually, and I think that's going to be very interesting. I have not done a wolf crit build yet. I was doing purely bleeds when I was doing it, so it'll be a lot different for me. When these big groups come in, I don't really have to do anything, but I also have a big wide swing of a melee attack, and that's been pretty awesome. Once we buff everything up, though, and we just start doing our damage over time, it gets pretty crazy. I know I'm standing in the thing. I got potions. I got potions! Chill, bro! It ain't that serious, dog. And then you rinse and repeat. You summon, you do your roar, and then everything dies. You're having a great time. And I think that's how the build's gonna be basically forever. Like, that's 100% of this build. We could wrap up the video right here, but we're not going to. We're going to jump on in to the deep parts of the game and see if it's any better. We're getting to pick our mastery now, and that is going to be a big deal for us because that's a 50% increase to melee damage for me and my minions. On top of that, I'm going to be getting one more wolf to be able to summon, which makes the claw amulet that I'm using exceptionally good. Now, if I wasn't using that, I would be able to do, I don't know, storm crows, maybe bring out the raptor. It's not like it would be a completely different scenario. And when we hit level 20 and we start speccing into our wolves, which we haven't even done yet, we're essentially at the point that it didn't matter anyway, so better believe I'm looking forward to that damage boost. I suppose it's worthwhile to show you how I clear through a thick, veiny group of dudes, and basically I'm just walking, man. It's just walking, and then if they get annoying, I leap over them. And I'm using mouse and keyboard at this particular moment because my controller ran out of battery, but if you put your mouse cursor all the way at the edge of the screen, boy, can you ever leap. You can go so far. And it makes me a little bit sad that the use of controller in this game is just really bad. If you don't have a solid medical reason for using controller, I think you're making a mistake by doing it. But still, that's the way that I'm going to be playing the game the majority of the time. It just really has a lot of downsides for using controller. And maybe at some point we'll come up with a list of tips for people who like doing that. But as you can see, we're moving forward all the time. We're putting our cursor at the edge of the screen to leap. And usually after I leap, I throw a couple of my little totems down and call it good. That's keeping me leveled with the area. Currently, the area is level 21. I'm level 22. So I'm not going out of my way to do any of this stuff, and I don't think you should either. Now everybody gather around, we're going to have a demonstration of why I am deviating from what the guide is telling me to do. I think that's a perfectly fine thing to do if you think that the guide is maybe not perfect, and I just didn't like their weapon choice. It's simple as. Now, while it is true that this weapon is a decent weapon, it's fine. They're just trying to get as much base damage as they can get here, with a little bit of attack speed thrown in, but they're also using a shield. I don't want to do that. I just don't want to use a shield. I'm sure that it's fine, and I'm sure that it's great for the build, and I'm sure that the point is that they're trying to get a lot of attack speed. That's why they're using a fast weapon here. They're using attack speed here, getting melee attack speed on this weapon, and I'm sure if they had gloves besides Avarice, it would be there as well. In fact, when we move along in the guide, we can determine that, yes, in fact, they will be putting attack speed on the gloves. The reason is because we are trying to get as many possible spirit wolves as we can. But for my money, and by money I mean shards, because these shards for the minion melee damage and so forth are really rare and really expensive, and I don't have that many of them. I think I have about 30 of the one that I have on there now, and about 15 of the other two options, which are bow and spell, and melee and bow. What this has allowed me to do is I used 3 of my shards. That's it. I got almost as much minion melee damage as they had on the other one. I'm doing more melee damage myself, but I am swinging a little bit slower. That being said, the melee attack speed that I have on this weapon, I get more of it because it's a two-hander, so that's making up for that a little bit. All in all, I think we're going to be about even on our spirit wolves here, and I also think the implicit increased minion damage is going to go a long way, and I just think it's a better fit for my economy right now. Later, maybe, I'll spend all of my shards on doing exactly what they're telling me to do, but I don't think that this transitional weapon is worth all of that, so I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to take the cheap version. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm giving up some defenses to take a cheap version. In some ways, my weapon that I'm using will be better. In other ways, it won't be quite as good. So feel free to make those decisions for yourself. Mine is based on economy at this point. And while we're switching up our weapons, we're also switching up our skills. We're moving into using Warcry, and they have it set up so you're using Atera's Blessing to spot heal yourself if you need it. I don't feel like I am ever going to use that. I'm switching back to controller now. I had a little lunch break and got my controller charged up. So I'm not using Atera's Blessing. I'm still going to be willing to throw out some Thorn Totems, even though I'm not spec'd into it. But mostly, I'm going to be running around with wolves, popping a war cry, and then smacking a couple of people with swipe. Well, the spirit wolves do not do what I thought. I thought they might stick around for a little while, a very little while. I did not expect them to be just full extra pets, but they don't stick around at all. It's just one quick little line attack, and that's the end of it. So that's what you get, and I guess that's fine. It's actually kind of cool, but I don't like using swipe. I just think it's kind of boring. I don't know. I don't like attacks that look like a basic attack. Sue me. I just don't like them. Unfortunately, it's time for Admiral Enzite, and these Thorn Totems these days are not really worth pressing, but I wasn't going to use a Terra's Blessing anyway, so I thought I'd try it out. Not really worth it. I'm not going to press it. I'm not going to keep pressing it anyway. So basically, we're just doing our Wolf Howl and our War Cry as often as we possibly can, and we're swinging swipe. Luckily, our minions are pretty tanky right now, but man, the damage sucks, and I have died a couple of times, probably just because of my own defenses. It is what it is. If you don't have any lightning in this area, it can be a little bit rough, but that hasn't been the only problem. It just feels like it's going a little bit downhill, and maybe it's because I did this weapon instead of taking the shield. I don't think so, but I mean, it's possible. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me that's the reason. Hopefully this is going to pick up a lot soon because, admittedly, I need some better gear, some newer gear, but this is really rough right now and not looking good for Monolith time. First Monolith time, and I have to tell you, in the beginning I was really excited about this build, and right now I absolutely hate this build 1,000%. One of the worst builds that I've played so far at all, and maybe it's my fault. My defenses could be a little bit better. I keep getting one-shot by everything, and I'm about to start saying sailor words pretty soon. I am not having a good time. And part of the reason is because when I did this build before, I was focusing on making my pets do bleeds. I was focusing on applying bleeds with War Cry. I did that through making it a totem. And the result of my build was that I could let my pets do their thing if things got dangerous or spicy. I could skirt around the outside and not have to worry about it too much. On this build, I have to stand basically rooted in place while I'm constantly swinging to be able to get damage out of this build. If you're not standing there swinging, you're barely doing any damage at all. The wolves just are not really cutting it on their own. They're not doing the thing. And so, when you're standing there and you're just absolutely eating it, trying to get through what you're trying to get through, you get one shot by random stuff, especially when you don't have the resistances like I don't right now, and I haven't been able to put them together, and I'm just at an annoying level where I just can't quite get it to be right. So I don't know if it's the build or me at this point, but I am just not enjoying having to stand in one spot, feeling like I gotta shake hands with everybody that I want to kill, and not even doing excessive amounts of damage while I'm doing that. It's like, it feels so labor intensive. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I hate it right now. I am currently frustrated with this build, as you know, but we're gonna try to kill an exiled mage here all on its own because single target is the way that this actually works the best. So we want to do our other buffs like Frenzy Totem and War Cry before we actually do our Howl from our pets, because that one is an instant cast and we can sort of be swinging while we're doing it. As you can see, the build does crazy damage. That's for sure. Single target damage is crazy, but let me try to explain quickly why I don't like it. Right now I have 4 wolves. I think I can get up to 6 if I have the right hat. Every time I swing and hit something, I have a chance to do a line attack from them, and that does considerable damage. So we're scaling a lot off of that, and we're getting as much attack speed as we can to do that more often. We are doing that extra attack speed by getting some from War Cry by giving ourselves Berserk. We're getting some of it from our Frenzy Totem because that's just how that works. And some from our Howl, which is also coming through the bonus of Frenzy. If I cast my Frenzy Totem and then Howl, I have my one Frenzy. I don't keep getting new Frenzies, I get the one Frenzy. So that one's a little bit redundant, but the Howl from the Wolves is getting to the point where it's going to give us Critical Strike and Critical Strike Multiplier, which is going to be very helpful. So that'll change then. But we're trying to stack as much attack speed as we can. One of the things that puts this off the rails is that when I use my howl and put it on cooldown as I just did, if I use my frenzy totem, it comes back and I can howl again, which is great. We all love that. The problem is that the howl and the war cry are on the same cooldown, so if you're trying to make them match up to be perfect, you're never going to do that. But what you can do is you can do a frenzy totem and a war cry and then do your howl. And then the next time your frenzy totem comes up, you can do a frenzy totem and then a howl. And then the next time, you get to do the war cry again. So it's a bit of a pattern that you have to keep up, and it's a little bit annoying. And if your pets are not with you, if they're not right next to you, then you're doing terrible damage, and it really sucks and is not fun. So everything here is micromanaging and conditional and just not the way that I like to play the game, and it's been very squishy, but then again, they did tell me to use a shield, and I'm not, so I'm taking credit for that one. Wow, it is the next day, and this is the first build that I had to take a break from. I straight up had to take a break. There was such a rough patch where it was just a bunch of dying, and the way that the build works is very annoying, and I literally just had to step away. I couldn't do it. Upon coming back today, however, I decided I would just not play it the way that I hate it. If you're trying to use your buffs all the time, which is what they want you to do, you're really going to have a hard time, and it's not going to be very fun because you spend just as much time putting down buffs as you do being able to take advantage of those buffs. Now, there are some points in the wolf tree where it lets them howl on their own, and the frenzy totem can last longer than its cooldown, so you have some times where you can just sort of set it and forget it. And I started just using Warcry as more of a defensive thing, where maybe there's somebody I want them to die fast, I'll use it for that. Maybe I need to stun them out of a big attack, I'll use it for that. Maybe I just don't know what I'm gonna do next, and I know it's a dire situation, so I'll stun everybody for a little bit. Of course, when I come up to bosses and everything, I'm using the full combo every time, but that's not the way that I would play through the game. The moral of the story with this build is that they came up with a pretty decent endgame build. This is not a leveling build. I don't know why they thought that this was going to be a smooth leveling process, but you're absolutely gimped until the end parts of the game. Sure, at the end where I have 6 wolves and I don't have to cast every buff every second, and I can afford to have my resistances as well as all of the offensive stuff that I need to get, sure, it can be a really, really strong build, and the single target damage is pretty insane. But when you are clearing a map, this build feels like garbage. For one thing, up until the very end, my wolves did not leap with me, so they were just sort of doing their own thing, and then if I started fighting, they would come over, and if I started fighting, they would come over after that, and I was waiting to be able to press my buff. So I'm standing there fighting something without the buff, and when you don't have your buffs on this build, it is not good. It feels really bad. The damage from this comes from your spirit wolves, where you have all of your dudes that are all facing the same guy, and you're swinging on him, and the spirit wolves are coming out, and the combined damage of all of that stuff is going to do a lot of damage. It's like I said in my damage guide video, when you can maximize the effect of the one button that you're pressing, then you're going to be doing a great thing. And by that I mean having something that hits people multiple times with the one button press. We're getting that effect here by having our spirit wolves come out while our wolves are attacking, while we're attacking with swipe, and we're just pressing that one button, and it all adds up pretty well. The only real issue is buff duration. If the buffs lasted a long time, this build would be fun to play, but for me, it's not, because I feel like I spend more time tending to and babysitting buffs and trying to line everything up perfectly, and it's just not what I like. And then after I do all of that and line up all the buffs, I'm only strong for a couple of seconds, and I don't know, man. I see what they were going for. I don't think it's fun. I think it might be fun if I was level 75 or something, and I had access to all of the gear and everything that I ever wanted. I think then I could make it really fun, and as an endgame build, you probably could get somewhere with it. But for clearing campaign, I honestly can't believe that this is the route that they went. And the reason for that is because the area clear is absolutely abysmal. Because your wolves are going off doing whatever they want to do, and they finally get the memo that you're doing a battle up in the front, and then they come try to help you with that. By that time, you can finally put your buffs up, and you start swinging, and you're hitting 3 of the 90 dudes that are on the screen. Yes, it can be better than that, but it does area damage, right? But the area that it does it in is the size of a manhole cover, and you just can only get a couple of dudes in that space. So, I don't know, man. I don't like that part of it. And the other thing that I don't like is that I did basically the same build. Almost exactly the same build. And I felt like mine was 1,000 times better. And I used mine for leveling. That's how I did it. So once again, I feel like this is a case of them kind of getting pigeonholed into the idea of what we're working towards instead of making a leveling guide, which is what it's called. And I just want them to make a leveling guide. I don't care about the end product. And I feel like most people would agree with that. So for that reason, this build is just not good. If you already have a Beastmaster that's super high level, and you saw this endgame portion that we're looking at, and you thought to yourself, well, gee golly gosh, I really think that looks swell, you should definitely try it, because I feel like for the right person, at the right level, it could be a very good build. For a leveling guide, though, absolutely doo-doo. It is total doo-doo. I did not enjoy. In fact, this video was supposed to be out the previous day, and like I said, I just couldn't sit through it and finish it, so I apologize for that. We have 2 builds left. We've got Spellblade and we've got the Falconer. And I think I'm gonna save the Falconer for last in honor of Ryan, the unmutable Falcon, who has been a viewer of mine since the Bloodline days. I don't think he actually watches the last Epoch stuff, but that's okay. I will still honor my viewers, whether they like it or not. You understand me? I will honor all of you, each and every one. And if that's the kind of behavior you're looking for, I invite you to like and subscribe and join the party. There's even a Discord. We talk to each other. We put up, it's usually a bunch of wiener jokes, I'll be honest with you. That's usually what happens in the Discord. It's not my fault. I'm not in control of things. There's no rules there. If somebody's a real jerk, I don't let them be there. That's the rule. That's the whole rule. So stop on by. We'll have a good time. And I don't remember if I said this in any other videos, but after I'm done with these reviews, I'm going to kick up the amount of times that I'm streaming, which these videos take a long time to make, and they can be very draining like this one was, so I don't want to get burnt out. That's why I'm not doing these videos and also streaming every day and just like completely going overboard, because I don't want to burn myself out on it, and I think that that would be possible. When these guides are done, though, we need to get into the end game, and so what we're going to do is stream through a lot of different things, try a bunch of builds, grind a bunch of gear, get a bunch of slams going, have a great time, and then we'll make those into videos of the reviews of some endgame builds, and we'll make our own builds, and maybe we'll do viewer submissions if you've got one that I should try. So stay tuned to the channel, because there's a lot more Last Epoch content coming up. And if there's anything extra janky in a different action RPG game that you want me to try out, I might be able to do that for you too. You gotta just let me know. For now, I want to thank you guys for watching. I have been Rage Panda 1, and I will see you in the next one.